we are going to see how we can cut cost while using AI in Sheets with using SheetAI function. So there are three different ways of how we are going to go about this. The first is the SheetAI Cache Feature. The second is the paste only value function or option, which is provided by Google Sheets themselves. Then the third option is using different models. So let's start with the Cache feature. So if we talk about the Cache feature, what happens by default is if you call any SheetAI function, you ask it to do something like, for example, in this particular case, I'm asking it to write me a tagline for a bike repair shop in India in Hindi. So this is basically, I don't want it in English, I want it in Hindi. So if I hit enter and give it a second, it will do the generation part. Now what happens is, as I said, by default, cache is turned on. So if I just recall this function, in multiple cell, you see it returns the same response. Why? Because what we do is we make sure that by different cases, for example, if you reload the Google Sheet, if you open the Google Sheet again, or maybe if you're just switching over different sheets and you get back to the sheet, what happens is this function will get called again and again, which can really cost you a lot depending on your usage. So if you started using today, you forgot on the different sheets you're using, someone else is opening, and a lot can happen. So what we have done is by default, we have entered the cache to happen so that you don't have to worry about, okay, hey, where did I messed up? Where did I forgot to convert that function into a value that my OpenAI credits are now exhausted. So cache is on by default. But now let's say you want to do something like you want to generate different responses. In that case, you can easily change that by writing comma, comma, and this particular cache, you see what happens when I type comma, it shows you what you're going to write, right? So this way, you just, when it shows for cache, you can just tell it to be false. And now what will happen is it will not use the cache and rather call OpenAI directly. So you see it's generating a different response, and if I scroll it down for the other cells, it will do the same. It will not get the same response from the cache. It will call OpenAI and get that response. Okay, so you can see that happened for all of them. Now, that is about using SheetAI Cache feature. You don't have to do anything for it. It's turned on by default. If you don't want to use it for different functions, then you can turn it off. The second option is the paste only values. So there many times what happens is once you have done the generation, you don't really want to keep the function. It's just better to just change that into the values. So how you can do that? Copy that. Okay, copy, right click, paste the special values only. Done. The function is gone. No need to worry about if even it's going to be called or whatever. So this is when you are using the cache to be turned off. In those cases, what you can do is you can just select all these values, do a right click, copy and paste as values only. And then this way your function will be converted into values. So that was the second way. Now, third thing which we are talking about is different models. So by default, we use the best model possible because we don't want people to confuse that, oh, SheetAI is not good, you know what, because it does not generate good responses. So to make sure of that, we provide the best model by default. But at the same time, there are many cases where you don't really need the best model. This DaVinci is very good for complex intents, for cause, effect, summarization for audience. But the same summarization can be done with Curie. Now, if we compare the pricing, let me show you guys what big difference is in pricing. In pricing of DaVinci, it's 0.02 for per 1,000 tokens amounts for 750 words. In the same way, like this Curie is like, you see how different the pricing is. So if you're doing some sort of summarization of text, it makes more sense to use Curie rather than using DaVinci. Then moving on to Babbage, this is also a very good, it can use for classification. So if you're doing some sort of a classification, sentiment search classification, you don't have to use DaVinci for it. You can just use Babbage. This one is way more cost effective than compared to DaVinci. So I will highly recommend to you try these out. Now you might be thinking, Sanskar, okay, but how can we use them with SheetAI? Well, there is a very simple option for that. So first thing first, I'll create a new function, SheetAI. And let's say I just want to do some summarization. I think I have a sheet for that. Summarization, feedback summaries. So I have these feedback. I want to summarize them. And let's see. Okay, I'm going to make this a little smaller. So I'm going to say SheetAI summarize and this and yeah, that should be good. Now, how can I use different models? Well, it's very simple. First thing first, we want to describe the response token. If you don't know what response token is how many tokens you want to be used for the response generated. So for this one, I feel like I just want around 200 words. So I'm going to mention 160 words. And over here in response token, I'm going to mention 200. This token amount is usually bigger than the word count, right? As you have seen, 1000 token responds to 750 words. So my usual recommendation is to provide more tokens than the amount of words you think you will need. Okay, we have provided the response token. I want it to get creative, so I'll type that to be 1. This creativity index can go from 0 to 1. It's by default 0.4. If you want to change it, you can put it at 1 to be best creative. If you're doing some sort of a not too much creative process, then you can keep it down. So here I don't think we really need too much, so I'm just going to keep it empty. By keeping it empty, it will be by the default value. Talking about model now. So to provide any model, as you might have seen, let me first delete this. These are named A, B, C, D. So we thought rather than entering the whole model, you could just do it like this. Go to the model place, and I want to use the query model. So I'll just say C, and yeah, cache is by default turned on, so you don't have to think about it, and just hit enter. Now this response which is generated is by using query. Now let's say, okay, I don't want to edit that. I want to keep it and show you how different responses will look like. So I'm going to insert one more column. And you see, it got called again, but it's the same value. So you don't have to worry, oh, my OpenAI credits got recalled because of the SheetAI cache. And this cache is not limited to any few hours, 6 hours, 5 hours. It's as long as the time goes. Well, as long as SheetAI app survives. And so here we used query for summary. Here we will see summary with Da Vinci. I hope I'm spelling that correctly. We'll copy the same, but here I'll provide that to be D. Now, basically what is going to happen is if I just directly call it, it's going to give me the cache thing, right? So I'm going to make some changes, maybe summarize this. And this is by Da Vinci. So I'm going to copy this, paste the special values only. Okay, and going to do the same here. It's turned on, so I don't think there is a, because I am like, yeah. Okay, so let's compare. I recently received a large Kindle order from a birthday from my sister to make it easier to hold and da 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 da. I think it's good. Let's see by query. The Kindle OS is a large Kindle that has responsive and quick e-ink screen. It also provides, it's not bad actually. If I go to my extension and launch SheetAI application, I'm going to go click on show activity, and this will show me how many tokens I have used. So you see over at this summarization, it used around 194 tokens for the query one, and this one used 220 tokens. The difference is not exactly the tokens only, it's about the pricing of these tokens. So that this way you can save as well. So looking forward to your feedback. If you have any other things you want to learn about, comment them down below. I'll be happy to make a video about that. And I'll see you in the next video.